All right. So executive powers of the president. Okay. What powers does the president have? First thing we just saw in the previous class was he appoints the prime minister. From where he appoints the prime minister? From the majority party who had won in the Lok Sabha elections. Either it would be a single largest party or it will be a coalition party. Second power the president has is he appoints the union minister on the advice of the prime minister. Now let us see what is the third power of the president. The president appoints the state governors and other high officials such as the comptroller and auditor general and the attorney general. Please underline this. Apart from appointing the president and the union of ministers, he also appoints state governors and high officials. High officials such as what? Then they gave you the list of high officials. You can form it in a tree diagram or flow chart also. Who are the high officials? It is the comptroller, it is the auditor general, and it is the attorney general. President, now the fourth point is president also appoints the judges. Which judges? The judges of
High Court and Supreme Court.
High Court. Okay. He appoints the judges of the Supreme Court and High Court and the ambassadors of to the other countries. So these
Who are the ambassadors?
Who will tell me what are ambassadors? This is so simple. Who will tell me what are ambassadors?
People who, on the behalf of a country, visit other countries.
Right, representatives. You can call it as, right?
Okay, ma'am.
Anshu?
Ma'am, I didn't understand the controller and auditor general.
Controller, they have given you the list of all high officials. So he appoints, the president appoints prime minister, union ministers, state governors, high officials, and the judges. Judges of Supreme Court as well as of the High Court. So these are the powers. Have you all understood the powers of the president?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, everyone. Did everyone understand?
Yes,
The
ma'am.
powers.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Can
ma'am.
one person just brief me? What are all the powers in short?
Ma'am,
Ma'am, can I share?
Yeah, let me give chance to Vivan. Let's see what he says. Yes, Vivan, quickly.
Ma'am, the first power is, ma'am, that he appoints the prime minister. Second, he ma'am, 1 minute, mama.
Here, take up here. Give me the answer.
Yes, ma'am, from the start. Okay,
Yes, yes.
Yeah, ma'am. So first is that he appoints the prime minister. Second is that he appoints the union ministers, but on the advice of the prime minister.
Very good.
Third, yes, and third is he appoints the state governors and the high officials like auditor general, comptroller, and attorney general. And then he appoints the judges of the Supreme and High Courts as well as the ambassadors to other countries.
Yes. Now, let us see what are the military powers of the president. Okay. As a president, what military powers he has? First is the president is the supreme commander of the defense forces. This is very important. Dash is the supreme commander of the defense forces. Who is it?
President.
The president. That means what? Supreme commander means what? He can declare war or conclude peace. Okay. See, defense forces are what? They are going to work under the orders of the president. They have to follow the orders of the president, whether to declare a war or whether to conclude the war in peaceful manner. Okay. All important territories and contracts are made in the president's name.
Ma'am, treaties.
Yeah, sorry, treaties. All important treaties and contracts are made in president's name. That means whatever defense contracts or military contracts are there, who is the main person over here who's involved?
President.
Because it is made in the name of president. Okay, these are his military powers. Now let me ask you a few questions of the previous page to just know or get satisfied whether you have understood or not.
Ma'am, I have a doubt, ma'am.
1 minute, we have first thing. All right, now let me ask you a few questions. What is the basic qualification of the president? Who will tell me?
May I answer?
Ma'am, can I tell?
Yes, Aditya. 1 minute. Yes, Aditya. Yes, Aditya. Okay. Who else has raised the hand?
Ma'am.
Oh, he logged out. Who else? Here, yes, you can tell.
Yes, ma'am, I can tell. Shall I say? Yes, so he or she must at least be of 35 years of age. He or she should be a citizen of India, and he or she should have qualities which a Lok Sabha member has. So all the qualifications should be there in that person.
Okay. What is the how is the president elected? Directly or indirectly?
Ma'am,
Ma'am, can I answer? I was disconnected last time.
Yeah, answer.
Ma'am, the president is elected indirectly. Ma'am, an electoral college elects the president.
And what does the electoral college consists of?
Ma'am,
Lok Sabha and
it consists of elected members of the both houses, the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha, and the elected members of state legislative assemblies.
Correct. Now, what is the term of the president? What is the term?
5 years.
5 years. And in this 5 years, what happens to the president if at all he happens to, violate any rule of the constitution?
Ma'am,
What will
can I
happen?
tell?
Yes,
impeachment.
Shreyas?
Ma'am, the prime minister can be impeached by the parliament if any of the following, such as violating the constitution or not following the rules, have been seen by the president.
Okay. Now, I remember discussing the powers also of the president. Now, let's discuss the military powers. What are the 2 military powers of the president?
Ma'am, all the important treaties and contracts are made in the president's name.
Correct.
And second, the president is the supreme commander of the defense force.
Correct. Okay. Now, let us see the legislative powers. See, there are difference. Executive powers, military powers, and legislative powers. Can you make out, children? Powers of president. I want each one of you to make a tree diagram of it. You are going to make a tree diagram starting with powers of president, divided into 3 different parts. One is executive powers, second military powers, third legislative powers. So we have already discussed executive powers, and you also have financial, judicial, and emergency powers and discretionary powers. So I want you all to make a tree diagram of all these powers. Now we are on the third power, that is the legislative power. The president can summon or prorogue the parliament. That means he or she addresses the opening session of the parliament every year. The president's address is a statement of government's policy. Okay, so now who is the one who opens the session, parliamentary session every year?
The president.
The president. Okay, so he is the one who has the power to summon or prorogue the parliament. That means it is in his hand either to open or to close the parliament session every year. The president can also dissolve the Lok Sabha and order fresh elections. This is so important. Lok Sabha elections is on a wider range, or Rajya Sabha election? Who will tell me this first?
Lok Sabha.
Lok Sabha. Why Lok Sabha?
Ma'am, because it takes place over all the country.
Correct. All the country, yeah,
All
throughout
the
the states, not the
states.
country, states.
Yes, all the states.
Yes. So now he is having a power to dissolve this Lok Sabha elections also, and he can even order to have a fresh election. So can you make out the legislative powers of the president? As he is
Ma'am,
on
So, ma'am, does he has the power also to remove the any member of the parliament?
Yeah, definitely. Any member of the parliament, it is mandatory for each and every member of the parliament to follow the rules and regulations and to abide by the rules and the regulations of the parliament. If any member fails to do so, they will definitely face the consequences. Okay. He and she can call a joint session of both the houses if there is a deadlock regarding a bill. As you know, how the bill gets introduced and then how the bill becomes the law. We had seen in the previous chapter. Now, if at all there is a deadlock situation between both the houses in the Lok Sabha as well as in the Rajya Sabha. So now who's the one who's going to resolve it? It is the president. How he does that? By having a joint session. Okay. Now, if you might get a give reason, why does the parliament president have a joint session? Who will tell me? Why does the president
joint session? Because if there is a deadlock regarding a bill.
Yes, deadlock situation regarding a bill. Okay.
Ma'am, what do you mean by the term deadlock?
Deadlock, that means the bill which was introduced in the parliament, it has to go through a certain procedure for it to become a law, right? But deadlock means none of the houses are agreeing to come to a particular conclusion, whether to make it as a law or whether to dissolve it. Okay, so that situation is called as the deadlock situation. Okay, where at times it not just in parliament, it can happen in the day-to-day life also. When two people are arguing, they are one is saying I am correct, the other is saying I am correct. They are not coming to one specific conclusion. Nobody is ready to compromise. One says listen to me, the other says listen to me. So this is called as a deadlock situation. So in this situation, it is the third person who has to get involved and resolve the issue, isn't it? Got it, Shreyas?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Each bill passed by the parliament has to receive president's assent in order to become a law. So, as I told you, whatever bill are passed in the parliament, it has to get the approval of the president for it to become a law. Okay. President's approval is must for any bill to become a law. Now, what happens? Let me ask you all what we had studied in the previous chapter. Once the bill is introduced in the parliament, what happens in the parliament? What happens?
Ma'am, once the bill is introduced, it's given to the parliament to either to reject it or to approve it.
Right. But what about the discussion? What happens in the discussion? Have you seen the parliament session? What happens? You have in the parliament, you have certain specific parties speaking for the bill and certain specific parties speaking against the bill. Right? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So only then, after taking down the consideration of each and every person's views, of the members of the parliament, views of the members of the parliament, then the bill will either become a law or it will be rejected. And that requires whose approval? Whose? President. Okay.
So, ma'am, there is also a vote happens over there to support the bill, and
yes, there is the vote also happens to support the bill, but the final call is taken by the president. Okay. Okay, they do give voting. They do. Some people, are in favor of the bill. Most of them, at times, it happens, are against the bill. But the final call is taken by the president. Okay.
Ma'am, means if there is many votes against the bill, then it should not be done or anything.
Yes.
So if the president approves it, so it has to be approved.
Yes, definitely. And only if the president approves it, then it will become a law. Until and unless president approves it, a bill will never become a law.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
And once it becomes a law, what has to be? It has to be implemented by the citizens. It becomes compulsory for the citizens to abide by the law. Got it? The president may send the bill back to the parliament if she does not approve. Got your answer, Shreyas?
Yes, ma'am.
See the answer. You just asked me the question.
Yes,
what if the president did not approve? If the president did not approve, he can again send the bill back to the parliament. But if it is passed the second time, okay, he or she is obliged to sign it and give his or her assent. That means, see, once the president can reject it, but again after its first rejection, again the bill comes back to the president, then second time the president is obliged to sign it, okay, to approve it. The president nominates 12. This is very, very important because there's one more question you will see. in the previous in the chapter ahead based upon this. The president nominates dash members to the Rajya Sabha. How many members?
12 members.
And dash Anglo-Indian members to the Lok Sabha.
2.
2 Anglo-Indian members. Okay, do remember this. Please underline this. It's very important. Okay, so let's revise legislative powers. Who will tell me? Who will summarize? What are the legislative powers? One person. Priyanshu, will you do it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, the president addresses the parliament at the starting of every year.
Yes.
And then the president has the power to order to dissolve the Lok Sabha and order fresh elections.
Yes.
And if there is a deadlock of regarding a bill, so he can call a joint session of both the houses together.
Excellent. Yes.
And ma'am, then the next power is that each bill is passed by the parliament has to receive the president's assent so that it can become an act. But if the president declines the bill for the first time, it is fine. But if the bill comes up again for the second time, then the president is obliged to sign it.
Correct.
And the last power is that he nominates 12 members to the Rajya Sabha and 2 Anglo-Indian members to the Lok Sabha.
Lok Sabha. Got it, everyone? Have you all understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
There is one more power, or that is legislative power in the next page. Let's see what is that one power, legislative power. Next page.
Let's stop the show.
That is, when the parliament is not in session, the president can issue ordinances, executive orders. Okay, ordinances like what? Like laws, but they are valid for only 6 weeks after the parliament meets again. So, for example, whenever there is not a session in the parliament, okay, parliament is not in session, so in that case, what else the president can do? He can issue ordinances. Okay, that means executive orders. Now whatever executive orders are issued by this president, that means the laws. Okay, they are like laws. Those laws will be valid only for 6 weeks. Okay, after the parliament meets again. Till the time the parliament meets again, those laws will be valid. Got the point, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Understood the last point, the legislative power?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.